Hello, I'm Phil Mullen, energy psychotherapist, and this little talk is about a somewhat revised theory of libido, which I call the first law of psychodynamics. And it's about how libidinal development in childhood can become trapped by trauma or trapped by painful circumstances and all the consequences of that, and how we can use energy psychology methods to release that trapped libidinal energy, release it for pleasure, life, work in the present. Okay, so what this is based on is a principle that has guided this book that I wrote, The Physics of the Mind, came out 2025 in the UK, I think 26 in the USA. And I looked carefully at the physics to do with the physical world, but also exploring how the same patterns repeat at different levels of reality, including in the mind and the wider mind, collective mind, the physics of the mind. So it's to do with repeating patterns. So I was struck by the first law of thermodynamics, physics law, that energy can never be created or destroyed. It just is changed from one form to another. And it struck me that that same principle applies to libidinal energy. So it's the old Freudian concept of libido that develops through different stages of development. Libido that we might think of as the energy of pleasure. And the crucial point that struck me is that it makes sense to consider that this energy of pleasure itself can never be created or destroyed. It's just changed from one form to another. But the crucial point is it will attach to whatever is there during childhood. It will attach to whatever or whoever is present, even if who's there and what's there are not very nice, even if they are horrible people, horrible circumstances, horrible environment. The libido will attach to it because it has to attach to something. And so it will find a kind of hidden pleasure in people, circumstances, events, experiences that are not overtly, remotely pleasurable. And this made sense to me of an observation I'd long made in psychoanalytically informed therapy, that it often seems to be the deepest wounds from childhood, the deepest wounds to the sense of self, the deepest wounds to the self that often form the core of the later adult's sexuality, as though sexuality, libido, somehow seems to organize itself around these deep wounds. And so a lot of strange later sexual addictions and compulsions seem to be based on this kind of sexualization of trauma, sexualization of early adverse experiences. This sort of idea was there very much in the psychoanalyst Robert Stoller, who wrote a number of books, interesting books about sexuality. But it's also there in the work of the psychoanalyst Heinz Kohut. In a number of his clinical examples, he's really describing how, I think he actually put it this way, that sexual fantasies are sexualized statements about early narcissistic injuries to the sense of self. So the deepest, greatest wounds form the core of the most exciting sexual fantasies and desires, often. But the sexual desires and fantasies can also be sexualized expressions of something that was missing, but was desired, like certain kinds of nurturance or a figure to idealize, and so forth. So this revised theory of libido, what's different in it is the point that libido will always attach to something, whatever the early experiences are, because it has to. It's the energy of pleasure, and you can't get rid of it. So it will always be finding pleasure. It might be a hidden pleasure in whatever is there. So it becomes a hidden pleasure in pain. May not be experienced as pleasure, but it is a kind of hidden pleasure. I sometimes call this reversed libido. In energy psychotherapy work, we're familiar with the idea of reversed energies, and here it's an instance of reversed libido. So another slide here, another way of looking at it, that in the beginning, perhaps libido is flowing freely, and then there's trauma, and trauma seems to then hijack the libido. It's hijacked by pain and suffering. It becomes sucked into that attractive field, that well of trauma. And then later, if we are able to use energy psychotherapy modalities successfully, there is a release, releasing that energy that's trapped in trauma, releasing it for life and pleasure in the present. And this is similar imagery. The free flow is caught in that trauma well, fixated. The libido keeps on flowing into that well of trauma in the psyche, from which it's hard to escape. Again, showing here how there can be a release, a healing of that early trauma, and release of the energy. So in energy psychotherapeutic work, there'd be two stages to this. It's very, very, very simple in essence, this energy psychotherapy work. You identify the traumas, and then you use energy methods, tapping on acupoint, meridian acupoints, particular ones, maybe particular sequences, or working with the chakra system, or other energy methods that combine coherent words, coherent statements of intention with coherent energetic states in order to bring higher healing energies to bear on the trauma. We can access higher dimensions of energy, energies of coherence from the unified field, the energy of coherence, bringing new healing order, flexible life order, where there was trauma and rigidity. Because when trauma fixes the libido, it's like it fixes the person's internal rules of how their mind and brain and behavior operate. I call it the personal gauge, and it fixes that gauge in a trauma state. So the person is tending continually to respond to the world as if it were still currently traumatic. And using energy psychotherapy methods, higher dimensional healing energies, we can release the personal gauge from that trap in trauma. This image here is a metaphorical, mantra-based image of what Elizabeth Rorschach and Richard Amoroso, physicists who theorized about a 12-dimensional realm in which we are embedded, and the unified field, the highest realm that continually pulses higher energy into our holographic universe. And this mantra-based image represents what they call the cosmological least unit, so the tiniest functioning pixel that tiles or pixelates our holographic universe. Throughout space, these tiny functioning units are pulsing higher dimensional energy of coherence into the quantum realm and our matter realm, coming through the noetic field of light, like the noetic mind of the cosmos, pulsing into our realm here. The problem with trauma is that it breaks the connection to these higher realms. It causes our lower dimensional geometries to curl in on themselves and to be cut off from these higher realms, the possibilities of healing from higher dimensional realms. And what we can do is provide some assistance to restore that connection, restore that flow of higher energies, bring healing to the trauma. And then what we need to do, this is the further step, we need to request that the person's energy be withdrawn from the early patterns, the early energy fields of trauma. Withdraw the energy from those fields and release it for life and pleasure in the present. Now, along the way, we might have to energy test, a kind of kinesiology energy test, whether there is whether the person has hidden pleasure in their suffering, hidden pleasure in the patterns that are troubling to them. And very often this will register as true. And once we've identified that, we can address it with simple energy methods, often just identifying it and tapping for a little while on this side of the hand, small intestine meridian point will enable that attachment, that libidinal attachment to the old patterns to be loosened, and then we can request that it be removed. The person is then released. The energy, the libido, is released. I hope that's made a little bit of sense to you, and perhaps if you're a psychotherapist, it may have prompted some further thoughts about what might be going on in libidinal developments. And if you're someone whose libido has been trapped by early adverse experiences, I hope it opens up the possibility that that trapped energy can be released for life and pleasure in the present. Thanks very much for listening.